Do you know how to have and hold a conversation? I'm not talking about the kind of boring exchange you may have at a family gathering, alumni reunion, or networking event. I'm asking if you can have a captivating, unforgettable, unbelievable discussion. Knowing how to start, hold, and a chat smoothly is one of the most important interpersonal skills you can possess, no matter your professional or social position. In today's program, we're showing you 12 science backed tips to make a conversation with anyone. You can use any of these tricks to hit things off quickly, easily, and pleasantly. You can combine the tips suggested here as you see fit, but remember the 5 keys to being super interesting in a conversation. Be interested in the other person. Ask honest and straightforward questions. Steer clear of controversial topics. Be a great listener. And number 5, see the opportunities, not the challenges. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How you doing today? I am doing marvelous. And if you are doing as marvelous as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Now, today we want to talk about how to make a wonderful conversation. And this is a conversation about how to make a conversation, right? Before we start, let me give a quick shout out to Eve Richard. She is in Reno, Nevada. Cash Marsh in Carson City, Nevada. And Obriel Marquez in Sparks, Nevada. We love you, Obriel, Cash, and Eve. The first proven tip to have a conversation with anyone is to point to something pleasant. If you are in a family gathering, an alumni reunion, or a networking event, or at a conference, point to something pleasant. This tip is delicious. Nice turnout for this event. Did you hear the keynote? I thought it was great. You know, there's always something positive to say in nearly every situation, right? So your job is to find it and say it. Don't say something negative because this is too risky, right? You know, things like, I thought the presentation was boring. I thought the speaker was pretentious. Those sort of negative comments could backfire, especially if the listener turns out to be somebody as close to the keynote speakers, or if the listener seems to be, again, involved with the venue. You don't want to say that, right? So point to something pleasant. Number 2, hit things off with a compliment. If you have a listener in front of you, you could say something like, "Wow, that's such a beautiful watch. Where did you get it?" Or that's just such a beautiful, I don't know, garments. Where'd you get it? Dress, right? The favorite ways to engage with someone is to mention something cool or positive about a personal belonging of that person, right? And then followed by a question, right? A garment, a necklace, a tie, shoes, phone, bag, all of this work, right? And the good thing is you'll get the listener feeling good right off the bat. So that will lessen your status as a stranger, and you will actually be upgraded to a warm companion, right? Now, never, and this is a biggie, folks, never comment on the listener's own physical appearance, right? Can you imagine having a stranger or a near stranger tell you that you have beautiful eyes, or you have a good nose, or you have beautiful lips? That's creepy, right? So never comment. Now, when it comes to physical appearance, the exception is the hair. You know, I think women mostly, and some men kind of like it when people comment on their hair. If they have a nice hairstyle or a nice haircut, it's a fine compliment, but don't overdo it. All right. Now, number 3, comment on the weather. Now, the good thing is, one thing I was talking about earlier was to steer clear of controversial topics, right? But the exception with the no negatives here is the weather, right? Everybody can talk about crappy weather or gloom or dim, whatever it is. So if you are in the midst of a heat wave or a torrential downpour or cold snap, remarking on the unusual weather is often a good way to start a conversation. And that's my favorite, by the way, because weather is always a safe place to go. It's always a safe bet. So, and why? Because the weather is a shared experience, right? One that both you and the listener are having at the current moment. And, and it's just very easy, right? Now, if it's a particularly lovely day, that's a good way to start too. And one of the things that I use personally also is to use compare and contrast to keep the conversation going, because there's one thing you can start a conversation, but you got to keep it going, right? So you can say something like, oh, it is a particularly lovely day here, but it is cold elsewhere. If it's snowing in Alaska and it's cold or warm in Miami, just kind of use this compare contrast tactics. That's just fantastic. You can also use season. So location, season. So you can say, last year was beautiful, this year was crappy. That kind of compare contrast really always works. Now, one thing you also want to do to kind of keep the conversation going is you want to talk about local business, tourism, festivals, other events that are happening in the city where you are, right? So just like what the Weather Channel will talk about, right? If you watch the Weather Channel, they sometimes will just branch out of their bread and butter, which is weather, and talk about what I call ancillary topics, right? Non-related but close topics. So business, tourism, other events happening in the city are always safe bets when it comes to engaging someone in a conversation. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm still here just having a conversation with you about how to have a conversation, how to have a dazzling conversation. Now, before we continue, please consider subscribing to our channel. We drop wonderful gems like this one, like this show every single day. Sometimes one, sometimes two, depending on how many resources we have and how much money we have to produce those resources. Please subscribe. Please like the content. Share. I'm sure somewhere someone in your entourage needs to hear this conversation tips so they can have better interpersonal skills. Please comment below. Let us know your opinion, your expertise when it comes to conversation tips. And also please watch our ads. We need any resources we need to be able to produce more content, hire more people, invest in equipment, and so on and so forth. Quick shout out to Kendall Daniels in Ogden, Utah, Colin Dickerson in West Jordan, Utah, and Aaliyah Cole in Utah, and the city is Wasatch Hollow in Utah. Thank you so much. Number 4, ask for information or assistance, right? Things like, excuse me, do you know what time the next session starts? Even if you already know the answer, asking for information is a great way to start someone talking to you, because guess what? Everyone likes to be helpful, right? Another trick, you could say something like, could you reach that item on the top shelf for me? Or I dropped my ring and I think it rolled under your table. Would you take a quick look? If you request assistance, this is pretty good too, because you are making the listener feel helpful, and people love to feel helpful, right? Now, the only thing you need to make sure is that the listener can provide that help without much inconvenience, right? You don't want to start pissing people off. So ask something that is reasonable and that can be given to you without much inconvenience. Number 5, solicit the listener's opinion, right? Everybody has their own view about something, right? Every person in this world has their own view on something. So take that to your advantage and start asking the listener about his or her thoughts. Things like, what did you think of that speech? Did you get a lot out of this workshop? I see you drinking a special cocktail. Would you recommend it? Most people like knowing that others are interested in their opinions and they will be glad to respond, right? As long as you ask in a very polite and genuine way, people will respond to you. Other questions could be, what do you think of this place? Right? What's your preference with a tea? Or is rock and roll, your kind of jam? Whatever it is, right? Mix things up and make it fun and polite, right? You want to stick with lighter subjects, lighter topics first, and then you can work your way up with more serious themes like politics, sports, and culture. Now, my advice is to always steer clear of politics. Unless you know the person, you're very comfortable, you know them for a while, and everything is fine. Politics and religions are, in my view, the no-nos, especially if you're talking to someone for the first or second time, right? So the safer bets are sports, culture, weather, business. Now, one thing also that is that I believe for you to ask somebody a question and solicit their opinion, use your surroundings. Use things I gave you before: business, music, food, drink, right? Use those to kick off your own inspiration so you can have an interesting conversation, right? Now, one thing also, don't make this an interview, a job interview, right? You want to chime in your own opinion also. You want to chime in with your own opinion so that you make the talking a lot easier. So for instance, if you say, is rock and roll your kind of jam, for instance, rock and roll music, you can say, I'd rather go with, I don't know, salsa or rock or pop, right? So you offer your opinion first, and then you kind of give the other persons the opportunity to respond as well. So that always works. Number 6, bring up a shared experience. So if you have a listener who comes from the same town or region as you, or he or she has attended the same high school or college, right? Or he or she has worked at the same company or had the same boss. Those are criteria, or what I call shared criteria, you can bring up in a conversation. And those are very, 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 very effective icebreakers, right? So if you and your listener both love tennis or rock and roll dancing or cars, right? Or traveling, this is great, because any common ground is a good way to start someone talking, especially if you use it as a reason to ask for information or advice, right? So that's pretty cool. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're still here talking about how to have a dazzling conversation. And I want to quickly give a shout out to Maya Johnston in Lake City, South Carolina, James Johnson in Charlestown, South Carolina, and Alexandra Harris in Columbia, South Carolina. Now, for those who just joined us right now, are asking what's the premise of today's conversation. In this show, I'm giving you 12 proven tips, science-backed tips to make a conversation with anyone. Do you know how to have and hold a conversation? I'm not talking about the kind of boring exchange you may have at a family gathering, alumni reunion, or networking event. I'm asking if you can have a captivating, unforgettable, unbelievable discussion. Knowing how to start, hold, and end a chat smoothly is one of the most important interpersonal skills you can possess, no matter your professional or social position. So, in this program, as I said earlier, I'm showing you 12 science-backed tips to make a conversation with anyone. You can use any of these tricks to hit things off quickly, easily, and pleasantly. You can combine the tips suggested here as you see fit, but remember the 5 keys to being super interesting in a conversation. Be interested in the other person. Ask honest and straightforward questions. Steer clear of controversial topics. Be a great listener and see the opportunities, not the challenges. Now, number 7, offer help, right? You won't often find yourself in a situation where you can help someone you're dying to talk to. But if it ever happens, don't miss a chance to be of use, right? Something like, can I help you carry the large box? Or do you need a seat? There is a free one over there. Would you like a program? This sort of thing. So the listener will be inclined to like you and trust you because you helped out, right? So offer help, but the thing is, offer help cautiously. Be careful here, right? Because the last thing we want is to be intrusive or excessive, right? Don't try to respect people's privacy here, private space here. Give them space, right? So you you want to adapt yourself to how the listener is responding to your overture, right? So if he or she likes it and is willing to engage in a conversation, then you keep talking. If not, just back off. All right. Number 8, introduce yourself. Right? Sometimes the best way to start a conversation is the easiest, the most direct. In many cases, the good old, hello, I'm Sweetie Kiwi, thought I would introduce myself, will do the trick. Right? This may sound surprising to you, but people feel more special if you approach them with your name straightforwardly. Right? Imagine you walk into someone and start introducing yourself. Your listener will think, oh, wow, he or she is thinking of me as a VIP. I don't know. Right. So, and the reason this always works is because it takes guts to walk up to someone and be the first to talk, which makes your listener respect your confidence and also open up. Right. So the next time you're in a conversation, you are at a venue, you want to engage in a conversation, walk up to the person, stick it out, stick out your hand and say, hello, I am so and so. I just wanted to introduce myself. And again, you would see the miracle that something extraordinary will happen, because the fact that you went out of your way to meet will make the listener feel important. As I said before, they will feel VIP. They will think like, oh, wow, and this will probably make the person want to talk to you as well. Number 9, you want to ask open-ended questions, right? So besides steering clear of controversial topics, we also want to steer clear of, closed-ended questions, right? Questions that can only give you a yes or no answer, right? Because if you ask if you ask a closed-end question and the person asks yes or no, the conversation is over. The conversation might be over. But if you ask an open-ended question, it's wonderful, right? Yes or no questions are the worst nightmare when it comes to conversation. So you don't want to have a dry and boring talk that nobody wants to be in. So ask questions, things like, what drink are you getting? What do you recommend I should get? Why? Right? Do you like the speaker? Do you like the keynote speaker? Would you come to the next event? Why? Right? So the possibilities here are endless. So you just need to find the most suitable responses and act on those responses to ask more questions, right? So this is really very important. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're still having a conversation about conversations, about captivating conversations. And I hope that my conversation with you is as dazzling as you would expect so far. At least I'm trying my best. Now, before I go on, I just want to quickly invite you to subscribe to our channel if you like the content we are providing so far. We tried our best. The production team is working 24/7 to produce wonderful content. Subscribe to our channel. We drop wonderful shows every single day. Like our channel, share our content, comment below. We want to have as much experience. We want to hear as much insights from as many insights from our viewers and listeners as possible. And speaking of viewers and listeners, we want to give a quick shout out to ZARA Ward. She is in Brewster, Minnesota. Josh John in Rollins, Minnesota. And Eva Wallace in Kensington, Minnesota. Thank you so much, Eva, Josh, and ZARA, for your for your feedback, for your attention. We really appreciate it. Number 10, to spark a conversation with anyone. Number 10 criterion: mention a mutual acquaintance. If you remember earlier, I was talking about, you want to find common ground with someone. You went to the same school, you work at the same company, right? That works. Now, in this case, I want you to mention a mutual acquaintance if you happen to have one, right? Something like, did you used to work with John? He and I have done several projects together, right? So naming someone that you both know will tell the listener you're part of his or extended social circle, right? That's kind of funny. Sometimes you go to meetings or you go to events and you kind of have people who are part of your LinkedIn circle, right? The social platform, and without even meeting them, they just send you a LinkedIn request and you accepted it without ever talking to them, because they were part of because that platform, LinkedIn, is very good at suggesting to you people who might be part of your immediate or extended social circle, right? So many people will begin thinking of you as someone they know or should know, because you know somebody they know, right? So be careful though, because you want to make sure that the listener's relationship with your shared acquaintance is on good terms, right? Because the last thing you don't want to say that you're best friend with someone only to learn that your friend and the listener are in the midst of a huge legal dispute, right? So be careful about that. Now, the number 11, tell your story. Earlier, I was telling you to to solicit the listener's opinion, right? Have them give their opinion, or you want to ask them open-ended questions, or you want to introduce yourself. Now, it's very important now to also tell your story. Not just say, hello, I'm so-and-so, I just wanted to introduce myself. No, but now you want to tell your story. Sometimes people respond faster if you tell them a little snippet about yourself before you ask for theirs, right? That way you come as open. You don't sound creepy. You don't look creepy, right? Think of a story that closely connects with the current situation you're in and just say it, right? So this can really help you a lot in terms of, breaking the ice here. Now, if you're honest and genuine with your words and feelings, your listener will open up to you directly, and he or she will open up to your sincerity and hop into the chat. So this is the sweet spot you want to get into. You want to tell your story, but you want to connect the story to the current situation you're in. Number 12, explore interests together, right? Now, there's no better way to start a conversation with someone with a topic he or she loves, right? Every one of us loves to talk about what we are into, whether it is sports, religion, politics, you name it, right? So, kids, pets, food. I think food is also a very safe bet. Food, pets also, but foods. So, people enjoy sharing their interests with others. So if your listener loves reading, you want to mention a book you've recently read, and you want to talk about why you love that book. If your listener is into, dancing, you want to talk about the new dance classes around, or the new shows, the new parties in the neighborhood, whatever it is that can draw their attention into the conversation, do it. Again, the goal here is to explore interests together. All right. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We want to give a shout out to our millions of viewers and listeners in North America and elsewhere. We want to particularly acknowledge right now Isabella Watts. She is in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, Ben Carl in Upton, Massachusetts, and Macy Hawkins in North Sudbury, Massachusetts. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your attention, your feedback. Just want to quickly give a recap of today's conversation here. Today we talked about 12 science-backed tips to make a conversation with anyone. And here are the tips. Number 1, point to something pleasant. Hit things off with a compliment. Comment on the weather. Ask for information or assistance. solicit an opinion, bring up a shared experience, offer help, introduce yourself, ask open-ended questions, mention a mutual acquaintance, tell your story, explore interests together. Now, this is very important. Now, I want to quickly give you a call to action here, because in every show we like to share with our audience a call to action, or give them further tips on how to implement the things that we have given them during the show, right? So the best way to make a conversation with anyone, besides applying the tips I've given to you earlier, are first, talk slowly. In a conversation, you want to focus on non-written things, right? Non-spoken things, non-verbal cues. Talk slowly. Maintain eye contact. Steer clear again of controversial topics. I'm talking religion, politics. Notice the details. When you talk to someone, always notice the details. You want to give unique compliments, right? But those have to be genuine, right? You don't want to flatter someone just for the sake of flattering here. You want to express your emotions, right? A conversation has to be something lively, right? Something vibrant, something dynamic. Don't speak to someone as if you are a robot, right? Nobody likes that. So express your emotion, laugh, be concerned. You want to be in the conversation. You want to be in the moment. Number 7, you also want to offer interesting insights, right? Make the conversation interesting, add value. In business, you have something called the value proposition. I would say when you have a conversation, always have a value proposition. Think about something that is interesting. Offer something interesting when it comes to your insights, your advice, your opinions. Make the other person learn something after talking to you. And the last thing you want to do here is, from today, I want you to start using the best words. Whatever you are in a conversation, use the best words. You want to, and this is why you want to talk slowly, because if you talk fast, sometimes your brain might be faster than your mouth, right? Sorry, it's just the other way around. Your mouth might be faster than your brain. What you want to do is you want to sync your brain waves, your mental waves, with your lips, right? So use the best words and steer clear of crazy or controversial topics or themes, right? So this is really what we want. If you do that the right way, you are able to get a captivating conversation. Of course, remember that you still need to keep in mind the 5 keys to being super interesting in a conversation. Again, you want to be interested in the other person. You want to ask honest and straightforward questions. You want to stay away from controversial topics. You want to be a great listener. And most importantly, number 5, you want to see opportunities, not challenges, when talking to someone. Okay? I'll be right back right after this. You want to stick around for the tip of this show, the pro tip of today. I'll be right back right after this. Okay, here is today's pro tip. To have a dazzling conversation, know beforehand what kind of outcome you'd like to get from the exchange. Caroline Webb, author of the bestseller How to Have a Good Day, an economist and leadership coach who had helped hundreds of organizations be more effective through behavioral economics, psychology, and neuroscience, has summed it up nicely. She said, "There are scientific insights behind what makes people better at connecting with others in new social situations. First, it's important to know what's going on in our brains." Caroline Webb said that we have a 2-system brain, the deliberate brain, the deliberate system, and the automatic system. The latter, in other words, the automatic system, is largely subconscious and what we normally use in conversation. It is the deliberate system that's a game changer if we know how to tap into it. The deliberate system is incredibly intelligent, but there are limitations on what they can do. That system can only process a certain amount of information at a given time, so we're constantly subconsciously filtering out an enormous amount of what's around us to focus our little bit of conscious attention on just a few things. So going back to what I said earlier, you want to know beforehand the kind of outcome you'd like to get from the exchange. That means we are currently missing a ton of signals that's around us. So we don't know what we don't know. So if you're planning the kind of outcome you like in a conversation, you can better use your delivery system and have a captivating discussions with others. Thank you for your attention and stay marvelous.